Hey guys, welcome to episode 30 of Reels and Heels. And just like last week, I need to do this. My friend TJ, who's been missing since September 29th in the Long Beach, California area, still no word. So if anybody in the greater Los Angeles area or anywhere, please share this flyer. If you've seen him around, please call the local authorities. And TJ, if you are out there listening, we're still looking for you, man. Everything's going to be all right. All right, so now we're going to our intro. Hey, here we are, episode 30, and today, wrestling factions and stables, and we have a great bunch of people here, and I'm looking, I see a couple familiar faces, so we have a new one here today. John, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey there, friends and foes. My name is John Pica. I'm the artist also known as the Shaman, the Bamboozlist, Big Daddy Cool Johnny Della Rocca, but you can call me Johnny, and I am a professional storyteller, actor, singer, magician, also an author and artist. I should be wearing like a Girl Scout brownie badge with all my merit badges on it. I do a little bit of everything except for rocket science. And I'm also a podcaster. I've been hosting the Diesel Punk podcast since 2011. And that's available on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher and Spreaker and everywhere that quality podcasts are found.
Nice.
And I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've been a wrestling aficionado since that day when Hulk Hogan pinned the Iron Sheik. I saw that, and I've been hooked ever since.
Dude, wasn't that like in 1850 or something?
I was gonna ask, what do they call a podcast in 2011?
Television.
You are a pioneer of the podcast.
Yeah, I am. I've actually been podcasting since 2005.
Oh, wow.
I was one of the first 300 podcasts available on Apple iTunes at the very beginning. And this is back when you had to pay $1 per episode. You had to pay to download it. And so I've been doing it a long time.
Nice.
Wasn't it considered blogging at that point?
Well, no, vlogging wasn't even a thing. This was audio only. Vlogging didn't come along until, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah. About 2009 is where the peak of vlogging hit its momentum.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. We're here joined by Ryan the Quote.
Yeah. That's right. You want to boost ratings? You want to get more sales? Bring in this guy. So it's good to be here, man. It's been a hot minute since I've seen you. You've been busy doing this, doing that. I haven't seen Willow in like 100 years. Willow, good to see you too. I mean, I'm just here to appreciate the greatest faction, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. That's the N.W.O Wolfpack from 1998, brother. That's why I'm here. That's right. Yeah. So we took the survey, Brian, and the survey says one more for the good guys, and that goes for the Wolfpack, brother.
And once again, we're joined by air guitarist and stand-up comedian Hennessy Williams.
Yeah. What's up? How you doing?
And then the last time that you were on, Darius, was that was the Kaiju episode, right? Back in July.
It was. It's been a while.
For the tag teams, yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thanks for having me back again for the 30th episode. I couldn't miss wrestling factions. It's one of my favorite things to talk about in wrestling. So I thought I'd hit Brian up and say, hey, let me get on this one.
Yeah, and as you guys can see, noticeably absent is Nicole. She'll be joining us a little late. But I'm going to start out with this. Does anybody on the panel know the difference between a stable and a faction? Go ahead,
I
John.
think John's the only one.
Well, and so I didn't even have to look this up. But Brian confirmed that I was correct. A stable is a group of performers, athletes, wrestlers, if you will, that are bound together by a central manager figure, like Bobby the Brain Heenan or Jimmy Hart or Eric Bischoff. Whereas a faction is just kind of a loose association of independent performers who get together for a common goal or to, help each other out. More like, what were we talking about? The League of Nations, or I would call more recently the Shield a faction, not a stable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm looking over here at was it AEW? They have the what is Chris Jericho's
the Inner Circle.
The Inner Circle, yeah. Which is an interesting bunch of performers that on the outside looking in, you're like, these guys don't really like fit together, but somehow
they shouldn't work. Yeah.
So go ahead.
I would say I could see Sammy Guevara and Jack Swagger being, Jake Hager being a good fit with Chris Jericho. It's the other two. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So when talking wrestling factions and stables, I go back to, the 80s when I started watching wrestling. We had, of course, Bobby Heenan. And then even in WCW, I don't think it was the 80s. Maybe it was the late 80s going into the 90s. You had Paulie Dangerous, which, the Dangerous Alliance, everybody knows him as Paul Heyman. And this was before ECW. But John, we'll start with you. When did you start noticing like wrestling factions? Like, when did you become a wrestling fan?
Well, I'm an OG wrestling fan. When the wrestling revolution began in the early 80s, I saw that match with Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik, and Hogan pins the Sheik and starts that was the start for me. And I lived near Cleveland, Ohio, and the Richfield Coliseum was up there, and that was one of the main places for the WWF back in the days to come. And my dad was friends with Bob Orton, Cowboy Bob Orton.
Oh man, he's great.
Yeah, Randy Orton's dad. And they were friends, and every time they would come to Cleveland, we would get backstage passes. So I got to hang out with those guys. I actually watched Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage backstage in the dressing room going over their script for their match that night.
Oh my goodness.
And so, so I was there, and, I was at WrestleMania 3, and, so I've been a fan for a long time, but I've always been drawn to the stables. There was always something really cool to me about, the Four Horsemen, and the Heenan family in particular. And, the Bobby Heenan stable was one of those really eclectic groups, because he had, these these superstar like dream athletes like Mr. Wonderful and Ravishing Rick Rude and Hercules Hernandez, and then he had the absolute monsters. He managed the Missing Link, Andre the Giant, Haku, later the Monster Meng, and King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd, and there was just something. Oh, and Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster, and he even managed the Brooklyn Brawler at one point. He was part of the
Can I just say
family.
the Brooklyn Brawler, even though that gimmick is hilarious, the dude's a legit wrestler. If you watch his old school
He's
matches,
great.
Listen, all of those ham and eggers, as Heenan would call them, all of the jobbers. I'm talking about Paul Roma, SD Jones, the Brooklyn Brawler, Iron Mike Sharp, those guys, Randy Poffo even, and Barry Horowitz. All those guys should be in the Hall of Fame,
Right.
because those dudes, not only were they legit talented, but their job was to make everybody else look better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys were masterful at it.
Right.
And they need to be in the Hall of Fame.
yeah.
Agreed.
I would definitely say, was it Steve Lombardi, which is the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah.
I was watching some of his older matches, and oh my God, like this was pre-Brooklyn Brawler. Like he was very good in the ring.
They all were.
Yeah.
Barry Horowitz as well.
He also managed one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Nick Bockwinkel. Nick Bockwinkel
right.
was part of that. And like, if you look at Nick Bockwinkel, you see a lot of what Chris Jericho is doing now in AEW. Nick Bockwinkel is like the predecessor to that. Now, he's not really in the category of Brooklyn Brawler because he was a little bit more well-known, but amazing. That stable's amazing. The Heenan family, it's like a deep stable.
It was amazing. And, I'm an artist. I wish I could put my hands on it. As an art project in high school, I did a landscape portrait of the entire Heenan family stable together. And I need to find it. It's one of my favorite pieces of work that I've ever done.
Would you say, because a lot of people don't remember Heenan was actually a wrestler.
That's right.
He was a manager. Would you say that he was a better wrestler or a better mouthpiece?
He was much better as a manager and commentator. He was an okay wrestler. He was a ham and egger, but on the mic, there was nothing better.
He set the precedent.
And just like Jerry Lawler, he moved around in the different promotions as well, I believe.
For a while, yeah.
I mean, just when Marty Jannetty threw himself through the window, as Bobby Heenan put it. It's one of the greatest lines ever. I mean, he's just so memorable. And
the best commentating team that ever was Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon.
Of course, yes. There's nothing even close, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
but I was a big fan of the Heenan family, and then on the other side of the television dial, out of Georgia, you had Ric Flair and Arn and Ole Anderson and Tully Blanchard as the Four Horsemen, and man, those guys pretty much, I think, set the standard. They became the template for a solid stable.
Yep.
And how long were the Four Horsemen active as the Four Horsemen? 30 years, 3 decades.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about Georgia, you also have to talk about the Fabulous Freebirds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, would we consider them a stable or a faction?
Well, I would say they're probably a stable like you would call the New Day.
They did wrestle in
when they talk about like the New Day, they always talk about the Freebird rule, how you can switch up, whoever's the tag.
Yep.
Now, didn't the Freebirds wrestle in different organizations separately?
They did.
Sometimes. So I would consider, I mean, stable's fine, but when you're representing one entity in a different organization, it makes you. I think it makes you more of a faction, in my opinion. And then but I mean, who cares? Really, you're still representing.
And then if you move over into Texas, you got the Von Erichs.
Mm-hmm.
The tragic Von Erichs.
Yeah, I mean, they were huge. They were based out of Dallas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, out of Texas, Dallas would be the center.
I don't even like talking about them sometimes because the Texas Tornado is about as far as I go talking about the Von Erich.
Well, so I don't know if you guys were around back then, but Kerry Von Erich comes into the WWF with all of this hype and all of this, just promo, the Texas Tornado, he's coming. And I was just like, when I saw him wrestle, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the guy? What?
Yeah, he would wrestle with the Peacock or whatever his name is, the Red Rooster.
Yeah, but Terry Taylor was hyped that way too as the Red Rooster, and both of them, I were just like, the only thing that saved Terry Taylor's career was that he was aligned with Bobby Heenan.
Right.
Yeah, and then going back to Bobby Heenan, you forgot Kurt Hennig was part of that.
Oh, that's right. I did forget. Yeah, he was. And what I always hated about that particular stable is that they were a stable under Heenan, but it wasn't like the Four Horsemen or later on the N.W.O. where they were teaming with each other and because you had some great talent with Mr. Wonderful and Ravishing Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig, and the only two that ever teamed together. Well, no, there were two teams that formed out of that stable. One was the first one, King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd. Mm-hmm. They were just monsters. And then later on, when you had Andre and Haku as a tag team, which, on the surface was like the weirdest combination, right? But at the end of the day, we talk about them now and remember them. I mean, who could beat that team? Really, let's think about that. Who could beat that team?
Maybe the Superpowers. Maybe. Shout out to Haku. I saw him at the racetrack bathroom the other day. I ran into him. Shout out to him. That's great. That was awesome.
Hey guys.
That dude was the real deal. You listen to wrestlers talk about Meng and Haku and how you did not want to cross him. You did not want to make him mad in the ring because he was a real deal badass that would totally destroy you and not even blink.
Oh, for sure. He was washing his hands when I came out the star. And I'm like, I just want to tell you that I respect you.
Yeah,
so,
there's
okay, all the great conversations happen in the bathroom with celebrities.
So I gotta know. Did you? This is a true story. Yes, it really did happen.
True story. This is in St.
Now,
Cloud,
did you
Florida.
actually talk to him?
No, I came out the store. He was washing his hands. Still a big guy, and I was like, I don't know how to approach him. So
does he look like he could still go?
Oh no, he still does. He looks like he could chop me immediately. So that's why I was like, I respect you. have a good day, and he walked out the bathroom. But how cool it was.
Yeah, see, that's something that all the Samoans and the Pacific South Islander wrestling families, and a lot of them are not even family. Some of them are just happen to be from that area. They have a certain type of respect, and if you do something backstage, you'll find out in the ring what's a lot of the like Yokozuna. There was sometimes that he would do some things in the ring because someone said something backstage or did something, and
AOP, accidental on purpose. AOP. If you ever hear that, that means it was going down that night.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna hop over and to you, Ryan. I know you love the N.W.O, but is there any other?
You like the Wolfpack version?
Is there any other factions out there that or stables that stood out to you that weren't the N.W.O?
yeah. Something that didn't share the same tags, right? Yeah, no, look, I just, despite them being cast as heels, I just love the NWO to pieces, and I'm going to love them to the day I die. But on the flip side of that, the faction or stable that I despise so much, and I wanted to see someone beat the living crap out of them every day of the week, twice on Sunday, was DX. Because DX in that stupid, pathetic-looking bus. The guy was sleeping with the boss's daughter. He ended up marrying her in real life, which is really weird, by the way. That's just weird. Triple H walking around with that belt across his shoulder for 350,000 days out of the year, and then you got Road Dogg and Billy Gunn having the tag belts. You got X-Pac running around with Tori, and then Tori wised up, and she split, left the company, went on to greener pastures, or so I've been told. And, every time I saw those punks walk out, humiliate other wrestlers, mess with my boy The Rock, mess with Mick, mess with other guys in the back who've been busting their chops to win world heavyweight belts, I just wanted to see them get their comeuppance. And granted, certain nights it came at the hands of The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin dropping the cinder blocks on the DX Express. That was fun to see because it's like, finally, DX is getting it's getting what's coming to him because what goes around comes around. So watch out, Hunter. Watch out, Stephanie. And by the way, he wasn't even part of the stable or faction, but when Y2J was coming out and talking trash about Stephanie McMahon Helmsley, I loved it. Finally, give these people their dues, man, because they keep messing up the locker room. They keep messing with matches. They keep writing new scripts that don't satisfy the millions and millions of people watching. It's like, come on. But yeah, DX. I will give DX to this one credit, though. I'm going to give him credit for one thing. Their remix from Run DMC from the WWF Aggression CD, that's good stuff. That is good stuff. I'm not going to lie. But other than your theme music, I despise DX.
Now that's really interesting to me because DX and the Wolfpack, they were buds in real life. I mean, they kind of sprung from the same event. The Click.
Yeah, cut from the same cloth.
Can I just say that with DX, they still hold two of the funniest skits in pro wrestling history. The first being when they came out as the Nation of Domination.
That would not happen today.
No.
None of that stuff.
I can't even remember the kid's name, but he did a perfect Owen Hart. And I remember he would come out and be like, I am not a nugget.
I'm not a nugget. I'm not a nugget.
And then
that leads to the best faction. It really does. That's the Hart Foundation, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then the other skit that DX holds the greatest is when it was Shawn Michaels and Triple H coming out as Shane and Vince.
Yeah.
I mean, but how many times have people made fun of Shane and Vince? Like, that happens like every couple of weeks on Raw. Like, at least back then it did. Not nowadays, but back then it happened a lot. People would always try to run those dudes. And who wouldn't want to? Because some people like the corporation or the corporation ministry, depending on which fence of the you swing for. But it's like, anyone can make fun of those guys. But it's funny that they do, because when it happens, it's like, yeah, I'm not really cool with this corporation thing. Can someone please beat the heck out of him. And then we got that great, what was it, a 6-man tag match at King of the Ring in 2000. It was Rock, Kane, Undertaker, a.k.a. the American Badass, going against, what was it, Vince, Shane, and Hunter, I think it was. That was fantastic because The Rock got the belt at the end, and he didn't even have to pin Triple H to win the belt.
That's true.
You see, Brian, I can recall certain things. You know? You're not the only guy who can remember certain moments in pro wrestling. Now, granted, I'm the youngest buck on this crew because I grew up watching wrestling from 98 to 2006, but dang, was it fun to be a wrestling fan back then.
Well, I say it's still fun to be a wrestling fan today. I mean, there's still a lot of great wrestling.
Watch it, Brian. That's up to you.
It's probably, you probably have
It is.
more options nowadays as far as TV is concerned.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I've not been a regular wrestling watcher for a couple of years now, and the other night I said, well, let's tune into Raw and see what's going on, and I was bored to
SmackDown where it is,
death.
and NXT.
NXT is the best that wrestling has today, hands down.
And not having fans isn't helping their cause very much.
The pandemic is ruining sports, Brian. It's a fact. And the other thing, I will say this, though. I like a fan who put this. The fan who did this was really smart. They took the introduction to AEW Wrestling Dynamite, I believe the program is called. Right? So someone took that and they revamped it and put Monday Nitro music as the music bed, and then the Monday Nitro 97 intro under it. And then when you hear the music in the arena, and people, this is when people were there, by the way. This is before the pandemic. So when they did that, I was like, damn, I missed that. That.
Yeah,
and then when I get the combination of, I get the best of both worlds. And I didn't know this until I read JR's book. I didn't know that JR and Tony Schiavone have been friends for 40,000 freaking years. I had no idea. But when I read the book, it's like, I get the best of both worlds. I get my WWE favorite announcer with good old JR, and then I get my favorite WCW announcer, Tony Schiavone, and you smack them together. What do you get? You get a great wrestling sandwich. I love that.
Are they working together now?
Oh, yeah, they're working in AEW.
I didn't know that because I did know there was a time back in the olden days where Schiavone and JR did commentate together back in
WCW.
WCW days, yeah.
Yeah, when it was a thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my issue with AEW. It's like AEW is like they tried everything to not be WCW. And when I watch it, I see WCW. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just when it first started, it was like
brings back memories, man.
It was like this alternate with different wrestlers we hadn't seen that we didn't know, and now we have this influx of ex-WWE.
But here's the problem with modern wrestling right now. There are no true superstars.
I disagree.
I'm talking about superstars that transcend the wrestling ring and bleed into pop culture.
John Cena.
John Cena was the last one. John Cena was the last one.
He can act really well, but he knows how to wrestle.
Yeah, but he's the last one. He's the last of the true pop culture superstars. I've not seen anyone on the horizon that has that charisma and that energy to cross over from wrestling to true pop culture icon.
I will have to say I agree with John. I understand what he's saying. Like when you think of people like Hulk Hogan, where you don't even have to know wrestling, and you say Hulk Hogan. I know who Hulk Hogan is.
Right.
And Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. Everybody knows
Slim Jims.
And when you say Ric Flair, everyone does. Woo! I mean, these guys and Andre the Giant. Everybody, even today, knows who Andre the Giant is.
Princess
even if
Bride
you don't know him from Princess
Bride. Is that
Bride.
because there isn't enough catchy,
I think Randy Orton would have a disagree with that because Randy,
the whole Viper thing, Darius.
No, it's the RKO out of nowhere. It literally transcended WWE.
But he stole that from DDP. Diamond Dallas Page invented that. It's called the.
But it's the gimmick of the out of nowhere.
That's where I was going with that.
It's the diamond cutter, though, man. He just ripped off the diamond cutter, called it the RKO. Big deal.
If you're talking about transcending the medium of wrestling, I mean, it went viral because, I mean, they literally put it everywhere. Like, when they would juxtapose him, like RKO and, like, a bear or something falling in the forest or something. Like it literally,
yeah.
it literally
Randy,
transcended.
I missed that.
I've seen
I
those
don't
videos,
remember
and let me
ever seeing
tell you,
that.
they should put
Yeah,
Randy
it's-
Orton
those videos
still
because he
from
started
the
that.
John Cena era, though. They came up at the same moment. They're
Yeah.
still the same.
And that is
period.
that should have been a tag team right there. Ruthless
Oh,
aggression.
yeah. Oh.
RKO, yeah, Randy Orton and
Yeah,
John Cena
I would have
together.
loved that.
Oh,
They
that
would have
come out of
dominated.
nowhere, and I
Oh,
would've been
that would have
shocked,
been
but
great.
At the same time, I would have paid attention because I'm like, oh, a baby face and a heel come together. Let's see where that goes.
Do you
So-
feel
Especially
like
that-
the wrestlers nowadays lack the ability to come up with an original gimmick?
Yeah,
It's hard.
WWE
It's
kind
hard to
of.
be original in 2020, even with a pandemic. Willow, we know this.
Well, here, let me answer that. Outside of WWE, it's easy. See, WWE, as long as Vince is alive,
Oh,
that's
boy.
Vince's baby.
Oof.
And when
Oof.
Triple H takes over,
Oh.
I mean, if you watch NXT, you see that's Triple H. There's no Vince McMahon in NXT. Raw,
Yeah, that's
SmackDown, the pay-per-views, that's all Vince. So outside of WWE, there's a lot of originality in the indies. But you have to be like a diehard wrestling fan.
Yeah, that's
I
my
don't know.
problem.
I mean, Kenny Omega was reaching that level too.
Brother, I can't do that.
I think Kenny Omega at one point was reaching that superstardom level that y'all was looking for, and then honestly, I think AEW kind of hindered his superstardom, like his rise to that point. I think AEW is hindering him because Kenny was everywhere. Like the cleaner, his interpretation of the Bullet Club with the Young Bucks was everywhere.
Yeah. See, I was gonna say the Bullet Club is someone that you can put that rivals N.W.O. because they were everywhere. Like even though they were from New Japan Pro Wrestling, in the course Ring of Honor, I mean they signed a deal with Hot Topic. I mean people were wearing their T-shirts
Jeez.
everywhere.
Making money.
They were making money, but you could literally go up to people and be like, name 2 people in the Bullet Club. And they
You're
would be
"Who
like,
you talking about? What's that? I just bought it because I like the
Kenny
shirt.
Omega and
Dude,
Well,
nobody
you know,
wants to buy
Styles,
Hot Topic,
yeah.
Hennessy. We all know this.
Well,
Once you get in Hot Topic, you can't
Prince
help but buy
Devitt,
like
which
50
is
shirts.
Finn Balor.
right.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I think the purists remember Prince Devitt being the beginner of Bullet Club, but most of the time, I think AJ took the Bullet Club to prominence, and I think Kenny Omega made it more mainstream. So it was like,
listen, if you're gonna talk about pop culture penetration, pop culture
Okay.
penetration,
That's
merchandise.
Take a
I like
drink.
that phrase.
Yeah, take a drink.
I like that phrase.
It all starts and ends with the N.W.O.
Mhm.
You know, back in the day, people wore Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage T-shirts, but you only bought them at the live event. They weren't available in stores. N.W.O. comes along, Hulk Hogan turns heel, becomes more interesting than he ever was as a baby face.
That's the best version of it.
And it became cool to root for the bad guys. And those N.W.O. shirts were everywhere. Walmart, Target, Hot Topic, everywhere you went, people were wearing N.W.O. shirts.
Touristy T-shirt shops at the beach. That's where I got my pack shirt, baby.
And listen, to this day, if I see someone with an N.W.O. shirt, I flash the sign and they
We gotta sweet them.
and we you know,
we do this. Yeah,
we do it.
Before the pandemic, we were doing this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody else
Definitely.
the Bullet Club stole that. The Bullet Club stole that.
And people still they will still, when you hit horns or whatever you call it, too sweet, you know, and for life, baby.
Well, I was gonna say that's something that both the DX and NWO kind of did, and it bled into like Hollywood and to other sports. Like people were doing the suck it, and people were doing the too sweet. You know, just like how Ric Flair. You know,
but without the NWO,
and someone be like, "Woo!"
But without the NWO, DX would have had none of that.
Nah.
None of it, because
See what I
DX
mean?
was a direct response to the NWO.
But you see, that's the thing is that the Hart Foundation, once again, Bret Hart named them. He called them degenerate. And then they're like, we are degenerates. We're D-Generation X. That actual, the Hart Foundation was already established as a faction. And they were already doing their thing.
Well, the Hart Foundation started as a tag team in the 80s with Bret Hart and the Anvil. And then, of course, Davey Boy Smith being his brother-in-law because he was married to Bret's sister. Mm-hmm. And then, Owen, that was a pretty interesting faction. I wish it came out a little sooner than the Crybaby Bret Hart era, but
Brian, shots fired, man.
I'm just gonna stay quiet.
Yeah, don't upset the Canadians on this show, Brian.
Talk all your shit about Bret Hart all you want.
Has anyone ever heard of
Oh no, I love Bret Hart. He's a fantastic
about that, Brian, because I'm not hearing that from this angle. Will is I'm
just saying, at the time that they created the Hart Foundation as a faction / stable, Brian Pillman and the Anvil came back, and then Davey Boy and then Owen. That was the time that Bret was having issues with Vince, and that was and it was his heel crybaby. That was his gimmick. But I would have liked to see them actually, when him and Vince were on good terms, on how that faction would have been.
Mm-hmm. I can't speak too much to the faction because, like I said, I got into wrestling a little bit later. But I'll give Bret Hart this. I use this in some of my spiels, or if I'm cutting a promo, whatever. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, are some of the best words ever uttered by a wrestler in history. Like, those are some of the best promos ever. Mm-hmm. Seriously, see, Willow knows what I'm talking about. When you say that you are the best, you gotta put your work in, man. And I do it every single time I go out and entertain people doing my streams. I'm telling you. It's crazy, man. It fires you up.
I will say that I think Bret Hart is the most overrated superstar of all time.
Willow might want to leave the stream,
Brian. I mean, look. As a tag team, the Hart Foundation was the best there was, the best there is, the best there ever will be. But as a solo performer and champion, what's memorable about his tenure other than the screw job? Other than the screw job, there's nothing else memorable about his reign.
We got some hot takes up.
I'm a Bret Hart guy.
Okay, I was gonna say Bret Hart and Steve Austin's match. Great. That was probably, I would say that's a top 3 match of all time. And then
I don't remember it.
Michaels at WrestleMania.
I wouldn't say top 3, but it's a good one.
He doesn't remember that match? Oh man.
I mean,
It's all good, John. It's okay.
What about Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper? WrestleMania 6?
Listen, that was a good match, but not because of Bret Hart.
Oh man, Roddy Piper.
Piper. I think Piper carried that match.
Piper should have won that belt. Piper deserved that strap. He is the most successful wrestler to never hold the title.
I love me some Roddy Piper, so I won't disagree.
Man, if John ever writes a history book, Brian, I'm going to be the first one to buy it. I'm interested in this guy's words on these subjects. I'm liking this.
So before we hop into some, better known stables, let's talk about some that didn't quite work.
Evolution.
Evolution.
Hey, once again, I got to give it up to the people who put the music together. Evolution's theme song is one of the top 10, man. That's pretty good.
How did Evolution not? I mean, I don't see how it didn't work. It did what it was supposed to do.
Listen, Evolution should have been humongous. But what happened? They fizzled out before they even had any kind of success.
Was it because they had too many big big cook, like too many cooks in the kitchen. You know, I mean, you had Flair, you had Triple H, egos.
Maybe.
You know,
Maybe.
I don't know. I think Evolution has this way that I think they're still prominent enough, and what they did was so prominent enough that, I mean, if you look at the course of the career of Batista, I mean, yeah, he might not be wrestling now, but I mean, he would not. He entered the game at what, 30? He was like, would he have been so big if it wasn't for Evolution? So I think in terms of prominence, I think Evolution is still one of those big stables that's like other WWE stables kind of do their research on when creating a stable.
I was gonna say Evolution helped Batista and Randy Orton.
Yeah. I mean, but Randy was going to be big no matter what.
I will agree with you that Evolution helped Orton, but I'm gonna say something very controversial here. Dave Batista.
I mean, the third thing you said.
Dave Batista is only as successful as he is now because of Rey Mysterio Jr.
Ooh, interesting.
Rey Mysterio and he are close friends,
Yeah.
and Mysterio helped shoot him through the roof as a heel.
I mean, the tag title win, and then when they went heel, when Batista went heel, and was
Vince loves Ray too. Vince loves Rey Mysterio, y'all.
The Animal and 619. Interesting.
I'm loving the comments section right now. Alfred
Oh, is it
with
lit,
Evolution
Willow?
was
Is
a
it
cheap
lit, as
four
the kids say
horsemen. What do you
nowadays?
guys think?
Evolution was a cheap four horsemen. They should have called them the Four Horsemen. If they had done that, that stable might have lasted longer. Because Flair was the guy.
Well, let's talk about the Horsemen.
The Horsemen.
What is the Horsemen? And I'll start with you, John.
The Horsemen was a stable because they were managed by J.J. Dillon in the early days, and he eventually departed. But and I would call them a stable because they had members come in and out. And that's a big piece of what I think a stable is. Who
would you call the definitive horseman? Since members have, I did like the later days with Steve Mongo, McMichael, Chris Benoit, Ric Flair, and then Arn Anderson
and Dean Malenko.
The Ace Man. Yeah.
I loved that iteration with Malenko and Benoit and Flair. I wasn't a fan of Mongo McMichael. I think that should have been that spot should have been for Kurt Hennig, and Kurt should have stayed with the Horsemen instead of going to N.W.O. I love that he went N.W.O. But
who did it?
Yeah, but
he was good at the beginning, and then it kind of dissipated.
Yeah, well,
that's because N.W.O. got diluted.
Yeah, N.W.O. got too big, and it became too hard to spotlight individual performers. But I mean,
that was Vince Russo's fault.
Yeah, but the Four Horsemen, quintessential Four Horsemen: Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, and Barry Windham. Those are the Horsemen.
Right.
Wasn't Arn's brother part of the Horsemen at one time?
Arn's Dan, Ollie Anderson, yeah. Ole Anderson.
Ole, yeah.
Yeah. And that was early on.
Yeah, and let's
Ole
just
was
not
replaced
mention
by Barry Windham.
Sid Vicious.
Well, so in the Horsemen, you had Lex Luger, Sid Vicious, Sting was even a member of the Four Horsemen for a while, and then Paul Roma, which, by the way, from a pure physical, athletic standpoint, Paul Roma was absolutely one of the best guys ever to step foot in a ring. There was just something about him that couldn't get over. And I don't know quite what it was. It's kind of, I feel the same way about him as I do Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston, as a solo performer, just can't get over on his own. As part of the New Day, it really works. But as a solo,
it's funny you mentioned Paul Roma. He worked better as a tag team with the Z-Man.
Well, he was in a lot of different tag teams, but the one where they had the most success was him and Jim Powers. They called him Power and Glory, and then later on they called them the Young Stallions. That's what they called them. And it's the first Survivor Series. They were on Hogan's team, and Hogan and the Young Stallions were the winners of the that Survivor Series, and that was in Richfield Coliseum in Cleveland. I was there and watched that, and I was like so hopeful that Roma and Jim Powers were gonna be pushed, and nothing happened. They win this big Survivor Series match, and then they disappear. It was so disappointing. But and then you had after Roma, Brian Pillman came in, and you had Brian Pillman, Dean Malenko, Arn Anderson, and Ric Flair, and then things started getting and I love that one line. Brian Pillman, Hogan comes into the WCW in the red and gold, and there was this whole angle with Kevin Sullivan's Dungeon of Doom and the Horsemen versus Hogan. And you remember Hogan started wearing all black, and Pillman calls him out. And I think this was a shoot. Pillman's like, "Hey Hogan, it must be fun pretending you're the bad guy. We're the bad guys." And I think that shoot is actually what probably started setting up Hogan for the heel turn 2 years later.
What's funny is a lot of people don't remember Hogan came in as a heel back in the day. He was a heel before he was the real American.
That's right. Yeah, it was that whole 1980s America versus the communist world that elevated him to a superstar. When he beat the Iron Sheik, it was like America's ultimate triumph against evil.
And he was like champion then for like 4 years after he beat the Sheik, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So I like long reign though. Long reign, the champion makes the belt mean something, or the title. I hate saying belt.
And it elevates that superstar too.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely in the future do a Champions Wrestling episode.
Looking at CM Punk.
Yeah, when we were discussing, stables or factions that didn't hit the mark, you mentioned Evolution, which, probably, there's some people that will agree with you. A lot of people disagree. Another one that didn't hit the mark was Right to Censor.
Oh my. Talk about
such a horrible.
The music is successfully the most annoying thing song there.
Oh
man,
they have the most
faction
annoying.
Drove me insane back in the day. Oh my god,
that just brought up some sort of PTSD. I can just hear that theme song in my head. Yeah,
it was Val Venus, who was the porn star, and then Ivory was in that group.
Yes, Ivory was in. I'm like, what
and
is
the Good
going
Father
on here? This is
and the Good Father.
Twilight Zone. It's
my goodness,
man.
I say the corporation, and my
Steven
personal
Richards.
opinion,
Man,
I don't
Stevie
think the
Richards was a
corporation was very
wacko,
successful.
weirdo, man.
So Hennessy is saying the corporation. You don't think they?
Any faction with Viscera and Midian, you lose.
Wait a minute, didn't the corporation have like 30,000 people in their faction or something?
I feel like they were making fun of the N.W.O. with that faction, kind of. But you had the Stooges, you had Viscera, Midian, and they're all wrestling main event matches. It became just, how did they dissipate? We don't even know how they broke up. It just went the power trip.
Maybe the Undertaker used his weirdo powers to split everybody.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that Undertaker pulled in the 90s was disturbing stuff for television.
Yeah, it was.
See, that's the corporate
he'll give you
ministry,
nightmares
though.
almost as much as Freddy Krueger does during Halloween.
Well, that's your answer. The corporation became the corporate ministry.
Exactly.
And then they eventually just kind of faded away.
Mhm.
That's true. Very true.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys would agree with this, and if you've even watched ECW, but the BWO,
The Blue World Order.
the Blue World,
Wow. Woo.
oh my
Man,
God, who was that?
Kool-Aid
Stevie
that
Richards
people.
and the Blue Meanie.
Blue Meanie, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, he was a
Was
wrestler
there a
in the
point
video
where he
game
was
I used
ever
to play.
legitimately good? Because I don't remember
I'm-
Blue Meanie.
I
ever
mean, you
being
talking about
like-
Ham and Agger.
Listen, Blue
Whatever happened to
Meanie.
those guys, man? That was weird.
Well, so Stevie Richards is still around. He's a trainer.
He's in good shape.
And he still looks like he could go too.
Oh, he's in great shape.
He's in great shape. Yeah.
Blue Meanie, I don't know if you guys knew this, but he was married to a porn star. And
Sounds about right.
and she, I forget what her name was, but she was like one of those drop dead gorgeous women that you were just like, what is he doing with her?
How did that
Doing that
happen?
damn dance he did. That's where it came from.
Jeez.
That's where that dance came from. Just letting us all know what we don't have.
Ugh.
All right, guys, I'm going to run a commercial here for a very good friend of mine, which I will be on his show Tuesday, Clever Title Pending at 8 p.m. Eastern, Brian K. Morris. So let's go ahead and run a spot.
From author Brian K. Morris comes an epic tale of armor forged by a god, a hero forged by courage, and an ancient menace poised to re-emerge and threaten our world. VULCANA, Rebirth of the Champion, is available on Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
Yes, the great Brian K. Morris. And that's how me
Yeah,
and
good
John
stuff there.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to jump off. I'm about to lose power, but thanks for having me on. This has been
Yeah, where can people find you?
johnpyka.com, JOHNPYKA.com. And I call it my spider website because it branches out to all of the various things that I'm involved in.
All right, John, we'll have to get you back on in the future, man.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. This has been a blast. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Nice meeting you, bud.
Boom.
All right, man. You stay safe.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, you
See
too.
Mm.
All right,
Such a
so
sweet kid,
it's-
Brian. Nice work, man.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, anything to rattle the cage of our good friend to the Great White North, Willow. Man, he was talking some trash about your boys up in Canada, Willow. Man.
So I was going to ask, is there another faction out there that you think that just didn't hit the mark?
Immortal.
Ooh,
Oh.
man, another great
People
theme
forget
music.
TNA had some. I thought TNA had some of the best ones and some of the worst ones all in like this one weird, like 2 to 3 year span.
It was a weird blender, Darius.
Yeah, because you had
LWO, boy.
yeah. I mean, you had Fortune, which is one of my favorites. But then you had, like I said, you had Immortal, which was like hyped up to be like this next coming of like the best stable ever, and then that just kind of, I mean, once they put the helm on Jeff Hardy, I was like, nah. But
What do you think of Aces and Eights?
I thought Aces and Ace was really good, but it was always going to be a jobber stable, which it sucks for them because they literally just took. I mean, you had Doc Gallows there, you had Mr. Anderson there, you had the Dudley Boys leading it. It's like, I think if I'm not mistaken, what's D'Lo? He was there, right?
D'Lo Brown?
Yeah, he was with them.
He was there.
Yeah, Mr. Hish, Mr. Bobblehead himself, he was there.
Man.
And what I did like about Aces and Eights though is elevated Bully to a status that I thought Bully could go specifically. So I thought in terms of how once they let Chris Sabin beat him for the title, I was just like, oh, this is the beginning of the end.
Yeah. What were some of the other stables there in TNA? I mean, I didn't really follow TNA as much.
Well,
I
you
mean,
had LAX. You had. Well, literally had Main Event Mafia, which is, the first iteration of Main Event Mafia was really good. The second one, not so much. You had Rampage Jackson in the second one, and that was just like, no, just get him up out of there.
Wasn't AJ Styles a part of something?
AJ was a part of Fortune and Immortal. So in Immortal, he was like their Ric Flair, and then in Fortune, he was the leader. But it was more of a Undisputed Era feel to with Fortune. Fortune was Beer Money, Kazarian, sometimes Christopher Daniels, and AJ, and it felt really like an Undisputed Era, like pre-form before we actually got Undisputed Era in NXT. Because you took some of the best guys pretty much in TNA and on the indie scene. They threw them together and was like, hey, because initially, which a lot of people don't know, is Fortune was supposed to be like the new Four Horsemen. They were really touted to be the new Four Horsemen. You had Desmond Wolfe, that was everybody know him as Nigel McGuinness. He was actually supposed to be a part of that new Four Horsemen. AJ Styles. They always had Beer Money there too, and then I think they had Kazarian kind of in the running, but not really. But then that kind of fizzled because I think Nigel McGuinness ended up leaving TNA, so that kind of fizzled out. And then they took over. They just took Beer Money, AJ, Kazarian, and sometimes, like I said, Chris Daniels, and then that's how Fortune was created, which is what I actually really love. I love Fortune. I'm a big fan. I don't know why they did this as a kind of like a hand signal for him, but this is why I say if you watch Fortune, it's literally Undisputed Era's like pre-form. It's like Undisputed Era took what Fortune did and perfected it, but Fortune was kind of like the original like four guys that I felt like, all right, this is the next gen of stable and / faction work that's going to take over, the wrestling world, and then kind of fizzle because TNA kind of. I'm surprised TNA's still here, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, the Undisputed Era, were always rumored. It was rumored as a Ring of Honor like faction because there was rumors of these Ring of Honor guys that were going to sign with WWE, and I was surprised that it took Roderick Strong a little bit to join the group. But, the initial group was Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. And shout out to Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor. That is match of the
great
year.
Match. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a fantastic match. I mean, if you wanted, like, brutality, but also mixed with
great storytelling.
Skill, and great storytelling. Oh, man, it don't get no better than that.
I was thinking of another group that didn't quite hit the mark and had decent talent, and that was Money Incorporated.
Money Inc. boy, yeah.
Which was it was Bam Bam Bigelow, $1 Million Man, Tatanka, IRS.
I forgot Tatanka was in that. Tatanka was in that.
Oh wow. AK before Ryan's time? Okay.
They were trying to
Ryan, you were like 2 years old when it came out.
That's what happens when you just celebrate your big 4. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Brian.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, we have a good one coming right now, but while we're still on bad one, the League of Nations, I really believe they could have been good, though.
They could have been good. I agree.
They had everything they needed.
Oh, you know what I think they needed? A good mouthpiece. They needed like a solid, I thought Lana was going to be that, but then that kind of that didn't
right. Way back could hold down the mic.
Yeah, but he didn't take he didn't step up. They really needed just a solid mouthpiece that would be like that. They're pretty much their face, and then they just been like the four guys that just beat the beatdown crew kind of. I mean, speaking of beatdown crew, that was a stable in TNA too. I just thought about it. That was MVP's pre-form of the Hurt Business.
The Hurt Business is gonna be okay if they keep it up right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. If they get like the rumor of like Naomi joining them, that really like excites me. I don't know why. I can really see her like really stepping up more and more. I mean, she's already was one of my favorites, but her getting into that role of joining like a big time stable like that would be good for her.
Well, I didn't watch SmackDown last night, but isn't there like the rumor that the Usos are breaking up and one of the Usos is joining Roman Reigns and Paul Lee?
Well, no. So I mean, what they want is they want both Usos to join Roman. So after I just watched Roman's promo with that, it was really good. Like that storyline, man. Oh my goodness,
a good Roman promo, nah.
Oh, since Roman's been healed, he's been delivering nothing but fire. Like
Paul's helped him a lot.
Like especially with his writing, like Paul. Yeah. Man, it's most of the time. Yeah, he is.
Paul Heyman retired like 20 years ago. He's another mouthpiece I can't stand to listen to when he's cutting promos. I can't stand him, man. He's annoying.
Don't watch his run with Brock in the New Age.
Jeez. He's been with Brock for when he started, then he joined him again, then he left, then he joined. It's like, Paul, your time is up, man.
If you think, look, you got the Heenan family. You got the Heenan family, you got the Paul Heyman guys. Like
that's too many Paul Heyman people, man. I can't do that.
Well, we can't count Cesaro, whatever. We can't count the King of Swing. Whatever.
I mean, McGillicuddy, he was what, Intercontinental Champion. Ryback was Intercontinental Champion. RVD won the World Championship. Big Show won the World Championship. Brock Lesnar won the World Championship. Roman Reigns just won the World Championship. CM Punk won. I mean, look, the track record shows, man. Undertaker was a Paul Heyman guy before he became the Undertaker, and he eventually won the World Championship. I mean, look, the track record shows he leads people to prominence. That's
despite
he really does.
He is almost as annoying as Stephanie McMahon is on the mic.
So Darius, do you remember Paul when he was known as Paul Lee Dangerous in the Dangerous Alliance in WCW? He carried the big brick phone. Yes, when cell phones weren't like this phone, they were like this big.
He carried the Zach Morris brick phone, Brian.
Yes, exactly.
Dang.
He picked up all sorts of radio waves with that phone, man.
And the thing is, he would he would always have. He's like, I always got to call my clients, and he would never really, talk to anybody. He would use it as a weapon.
Yeah. Let me give a guy a concussion with the back of my brick. That's what he did. Probably. I don't know. Like I said, a lot of this stuff was before my time. So take everything I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, with a big grain of salt.
So Darius, what would you say? Because this kind of crossed over with ECW and WCW would be, and ECW was called Raven's Nest, I believe, and then WCW was called Raven's Flock. Do you think good or bad? I mean, where do you see them?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I forgot they existed until you just said that.
Wow.
So that goes to show how much relevancy they had with me. I mean, the thing is, Raven was just never a character that I was just like attracted to in terms of like his stage presence.
Yeah. And WCW, Billy Kidman was the star of that group.
Yeah. I mean, and then look what he did when he came to the WWF. He was, he was the master of the superstar press. He was that's literally what he got his fame for.
I really believe the flock didn't work because of how it started. And if people remember Stevie Richards, it was like this weird thing when Stevie Richards was coming out, like saying Raven was coming or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then he finally got there, and then like he didn't say anything for like 2 weeks, and then he just kicked Stevie Richards' ass. And then it became the flock, and you're like, what? Like it was a weird way that it formed, and the N.W.O was rolling so hard at that time. They kind of got pushed to that in between the cruiserweight fight and like that 8:30 slot, where like nobody. That's when I Nobody was watching it. Or 9:30 when I turned to Raw.
Yeah.
Like you just missed the flock. And then Billy Kidman was wrestling at 8. So you would see him in a cruiserweight match. You would see him versus Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero.
Man, those cruiserweights were so good, man.
8 o'clock, it was every
Love
time.
cruiserweights.
And Lodi, and yeah, they had who they had? They had Lodi. Who was the big tall guy? And
Reese.
Reese.
Yeah, wasn't
Sick
that like
Boy,
Hogan's
Sick
nephew
Boy.
or something?
Yeah.
You had Sick Boy.
Buff
Who was the other guy?
Buff Bagwell's old partner, who they kicked out, who was actually probably their best actual wrestler.
What
was his name?
He was in the flock. Man.
Perry Saturn was, oh my goodness, yeah.
He was in the flock, man. He was. He had those rings of Saturn going on. He had
Can
the
we just
Dennis
say how
driver to push
his
you to
rank he
sleep.
is though, or was?
No, he was in the flock.
Perry Saturn was a legit tag team. Scotty Riggs, oh my god,
that's who I'm
That's
talking
who
about.
it was. Scotty Riggs. That's it.
He's an amazing wrestler though. Like, and they
he had the eye patch.
yeah, like ripped them apart, bro.
Yeah, he was trying to be a pirate.
Rip of the Pirates.
After he joined the
Trying to be a pirate. But I will say though, it was cool seeing Goldberg tear through the entire flock on Monday Nitro when he won the US strap, because he had guys coming at him from every single direction. Even who was the new guy who joined? Horace Boulder brings out the stop sign, beats him over the head with it, and Goldberg has no effect. He just shakes it off. He's like, spear him, throw him out of the ring.
Now it's
Jack
bringing back
Hammer,
memories now.
Dude, that moment was so nuts. If I could have been in the arena for a night, I would have liked to have seen Goldberg win the U.S. strap from Raven, because that was pretty cool stuff.
Hey, Ryan, I know you love WCW and stuff. I was ringside at Halloween Havoc in '97 and '98.
Oh,
Wow.
Well, that just makes me hate you a lot more, Brian. Thanks for bringing that up.
Because at that time I was living in Las Vegas, and Halloween Havoc every year was at the MGM Grand Garden Arena.
That's right. Yeah. So you saw the match between, what was it? Was it Savage and Page, DDP and Randy Savage one year, and then the following year you saw the match that really never happened between Ultimate Warrior and Hollywood Hogan?
Yep.
Man, you must have had a lot of drinks to forget some of the matches that happened that night.
Yeah.
You were playing at the tables, man, trying to win some money to get away from the bad memories of Halloween Havoc, some of them.
Dude, I was like 17, 18, so I wasn't old enough to gamble, but yeah, sure.
What was the name of the faction?
I see what you did there.
My bad. What was the name of the faction in WCW with G.I. Bro? And they had Major Gun.
Oh, you mean the Misfits in Action? You talking about Misfits in Action with Hugh Morris, Major Guns, and Van Dam?
My gosh, that's terrible, bro.
Yeah, do you remember that?
That's when all the bad factions are in WCW 2000.
I mean, I thought Misfits in Action were okay for what they were, but then again, I was still young and somewhat naive, but I understood some of what was going on in the world at that point.
Well, WWF had some pretty bad factions around that time. What was it, Nexus? I mean, I don't think they worked all that well.
Ho. Nexus was great.
Nexus was
great. Great theme song.
New Nexus with CM Punk led was not that good, and that's because Nexus. I'm gonna tell you why Nexus was so good, because Nexus took people who, I mean, besides Daniel Bryan, they took people who weren't they were barely known, barely had experience around them, and they made them, I mean, at least tried to make them stars, which was always an idea that should have always been a thing. Like that should have always she talking the straight edge society.
I'll say this though, Darius. The thing that wigged me out about Nexus was that when CM Punk took over, didn't he only bring people into the ring to shave their heads for some weird reason?
No, that was straight edge society.
Straight edge society.
Okay,
so
that to me was
CM
just
Punk,
weird.
When CM Punk took over, they were called the New Nexus.
Okay.
I like the straight edge society.
Society was good.
Yeah, I didn't like New Nexus because all they did was, I mean, he kind of just wanted to. It was only a setup for CM Punk becoming the CM Punk we know with the pipe bomb and the 434-day reign. So it wasn't really like made for the stable. That's why I like the original Nexus, because it was a stable made to promote the stars. Where this one was made to promote CM Punk.
Right.
So it was just like, I didn't like how they took like Mason Ryan. Nobody remembers Mason Ryan. They kept calling him like
he was like the Batista wannabe.
Yeah,
Well,
they
he
kept
had
calling him
one
Batista
shoulder.
Jr.
It used to annoy me so much. One of his shoulders is bigger
Was
than
off,
both
right?
shoulders.
Yeah,
Look
you're
it
right.
up, man. One of his,
You're right.
you
You're
know,
absolutely right, actually. And it was always weird because it always looked like one of them just like kept moving or something. Like every time he does something, it's like, what is up with that shoulder? But no, you're right.
Let me ask you all this then. What is it that didn't make these factions work? Was it the wrestlers? I mean, because some of them were great talents. I mean, what makes a stable or faction great, and what doesn't make them great?
It needs to be. Sometimes they try to force the issue, and sometimes it needs to just be. The words leaving my mind right now, but it needs to be like, it needs to come in like that.
Natural.
Right? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Bad gimmicks. I like that.
Bad gimmicks. Yeah.
And look at the New Day. The New Day was a natural.
The New Day should not have worked.
Right.
I always say this. It was a church stable. They were literally like church folk. When they first came out with the New Day idea, I mean, Big E, I think he is actually like a minister or a pastor. But like literally in the match, like I remember my first time watching New Day, and Big E was going for his big splash, but before he did it, he wiped himself off like a pastor, and it's the funniest thing ever. And I was just like, did he just like really like wipe the sweat, like hit the move on him, and then backed up? And then I was like, okay, this should not work, but I was loving it. I was absolutely enjoying it. And what I also think messes up gimmicks and stables is the writing. The writing specifically with how maybe either Vince or Tony Khan or whichever one of these big name brands who was running these federations, how they want that stable to go. So like I said, you had something like Nexus where it was to introduce the next generation. And they were to make a name for themselves. But then you had New Nexus was like, this is just for CM Punk. That ruins the stable because, I mean, look who it spawned. It spawned Husky Harris, who is now, Bray Wyatt, which is the biggest thing going in wrestling right now. It spawned, at one point would have spawned Michael McGillicuddy, who became, Curtis Axel.
Yeah, but the thing he was never as good as his father.
Yeah, but he didn't have to be. He just had to be a role player. That's some of these guys. Like,
Mr. Perfect, man.
You're never going to be as good as. I mean,
well, can I look at Randy Orton though?
Yeah,
who
I was going to say
is bigger than his father and much better than his father. His
father didn't exactly take care of himself.
Exactly. He had to try hard to be, like he had to reach for a very high level. But in terms of just like, I mean, look at Bray Wyatt and look at what's his brother name? Bo Dallas. I mean, you remember their father? Yeah. Their father was,
IRS.
Yeah, IRS. And,
Mike Rotunda is his name.
Mike Rotunda. So you remember Mike Rotunda, and Bray Wyatt was always. I thought Bray was always destined to be better than his father. So it's starting to show now where it took a minute for him to get his gimmick together, but now he's reaching that threshold. He's reaching that pedestal. But you have stables where it's like, if the center goal is to promote and push the next generation. Like, look at the Shield. The Shield was literally made to produce the next biggest stars in the wrestling. And like they literally, and then look at it. Roman was the champion at one point. I mean, Roman is still the champion. Seth Rollins was the champion. And then Dean, which is now, John Moxley, he took back his John Moxley name, is the AEW World Champion. So long as the stable has one set goal, I think that's what makes them successful. Is when you have all these cooks in the pot where it's like, all right, we want them to be the face, but we also want this person to maybe be the bad guy of the face, and you want this person to do this, you want this person to do. Have a center goal. If your goal is to push the next generation, push the next generation. If your goal is to push a superstar, then let it be that. But you can't mix goals, and I think that's what ruins a lot of stables. Like Immortal was supposed to be this thing where it promotes the next big stars, but then all it really promoted was Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, and that's why it failed.
They already big.
Exactly.
I'm reading this comment saying that those guys could never fill the suspenders of IRS. They already have, and the only person that's really afraid of the IRS is Wesley Snipes, but that's another story.
Man, does anyone even wear suspenders anymore? I don't think so. But
only if you're in steampunk outfits.
Oh, really? Really? Okay. All right.
I really wish
I've
they
seen a
would
few of
do.
those outfits at conventions, Willow, so I can understand.
I really wish
Gotta wear
Bo
the
Dallas
suspenders,
would
Willow.
do something with his brother. I really wish Bo Dallas would do something with his brother.
You know what?
I mean,
They were this close. Like yeah, he was going to join the Wyatt family. He even started growing out the beard and everything. It just they decided to put him up with.
The B squad, right?
They put him with the B team, and
B team, man. Boo.
And then they put him with the Miz, and
There's the Miz Garage.
That could have worked. But once again, we're talking about writing. The Miz can hold it down on the mic. And if they had done it properly with those two behind him, it could have been more legitimate than it was. But they made it a mockery.
Yep.
If they had been serious about it and had serious writing, they could have made them legit right then. Boom.
You know which team?
Can I ask this question? Because they were put together, and I don't know if you would really call them like a tag team per se. I mean, they did tag team matches, but that was Edge and Orton, rated RKO.
Rated RKO. Oh yes, one of my favorites.
Yeah. Would you call them kind of like I mean, there was two, but were they more of a tag team or a stable? Because I mean, they did solo stuff.
Was Lita part of it?
Well, yeah,
Lita was kind of a part of it. Yeah.
If they had gotten one more person, if they had,
who could you have added to that? Like literally, that could have matched both of their star power. Like you had to add like Cena or somebody. Like you had who could have rated RKO was so good because they both were heels, right?
At that time, you probably could have added maybe CM Punk.
The tag team they had.
Maybe CM Punk. But I think CM Punk, I don't think CM Punk was, I think he was still in ECW at the time. He was just
2007?
Yeah, that was 06. So CM Punk was literally just debuting in ECW. So that would have been too soon for him. So they probably could have added the Miz because Miz was prominent at that time.
Yeah.
Who else was there? JBL, but JBL had the cabinet.
The cabinet. I forgot about the cabinet. That was
yeah, the cabinet started right shortly after he won the title in 04. Right?
Yeah. And that was a nice run. That was a very good run.
That was a solid good year for JBL.
Before John Cena beat him, he's the reason why John Cena became what he became.
Yeah, Super
Cena. He legitimized it.
Yep.
So I'm going to take another commercial break here. Everybody, please check out this show. He is trying to hit 40,000 by the end of the year.
This is the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Also catch us on the HWWS Web TV YouTube channel. Subscribe today and become part of the legend.
Oh, this is a show I need to check out.
Yes, if you're a doctor, I'm a big
Whovian. I did not know that podcast existed. Now I have to watch it.
Christian is a great host, and I've known them for a few years, and they just recently crossed 39,000 on Facebook.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
okay.
Yeah, they're on their way to 40,000.
How did I
It's
not know
definitely an
about this?
inspiration for people like us who are, trying to get as many fans as we can to like our pages. Definitely something that to learn from. And
Yeah, me too. I gotta get out of here, y'all. I gotta go to this timeshare tour.
Oh yeah, go get that 200.
I'm gonna get that 200. Hopefully, I don't do something stupid. I come back with a 1-bedroom in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Well, it'll be nice to be in Honolulu, and what happens when you get there? You get laid.
Yeah, well, I think what happens when you get there now is you wait 14 days before you.
Yeah.
So
Yes, you get there, and then 14 days later, you get laid.
There you go. All right, man. It's great seeing you. You can check me out on anything. The Hennessy Williams Experience. Just look me up. I will pop right up. It don't matter. Google, Apple, who cares? It's all about me right there.
Yeah, we can find you on MySpace too, right?
Yes, sir. You know what? You can find me on MySpace. I just can't log into it to change it. So
Exactly.
It's like going into a time machine if you look up that way.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know who my girlfriend is on it. Tell me my top 10.
All right, man, brother. It's always good to have you on. We'll see you later.
Thank
See you
you for
later.
having me.
have a good night.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Darius, any more factions out there that you want to just say that are horrible or great?
I mean, we cover a lot of some of my favorites.
How about the ladies? How about the ladies factions?
Well, do you call the 4 horsewomen? Can you call Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, and Bailey like a faction? Because they never really like that.
I feel
that
like
was
they kind of ripped off the 4 horsemen for that.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's really hard
wasn't
to
that
say.
kind of like a slap in the face to Ronda Rousey and her friends, because they were actually called the 4 horsewomen in UFC?
Yeah, I think it was, and it kind of was gonna start a rivalry, but I think they just never kind of went all the way through with it. But I mean, you had the Beautiful People in TNA, which Angelina Love, what was it, Reby? No, not Reby. Who was it? Who's dating Bully Ray? It's the woman dating Velvet Sky. Velvet Sky, Madison Rain. Yeah. Beautiful People was a good faction. I actually really enjoyed the Beautiful People.
I'm looking at in my head here. There haven't been really a lot of female factions.
Not many.
Maybe in what is that all female federation that's running now? What is it called?
Is it in Japan? Is you referring to the one in Japan?
No, is it in Japan? I thought there's one that starts with like an S, I think.
That would be a Google day. That's a Google moment right there.
I think Willow's already on it.
But I say Beautiful People is the first like major one that comes to mind, because there's been tag teams, but it hasn't been too many stables or factions. Because you got the Bellas, you have the Iconics, you have Lay Cool. Like there's been great tag teams, but I don't know if there's been stables of faction that's just been all women. I mean, I guess the faction with in NXT with Shayna Baszler and her crew, she kind of had like a crew together, but they didn't have like an official name. They were just I think those 3 were 3 of the 4 horsewomen that were like kind of working together. So I guess that's a stable. But as you said, it's not too many like official stables that were all women. That's the least escaping my mind. I don't think AEW has any.
Well, for NXT, it was Team Bad. There was Riot Squad.
Riot Squad. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did have the Riot Squad.
Vince's Devils for
Oh yeah,
WWE.
that was a thing. That was what Stacy, Tori, and Dawn Marie.
Tori, Candace, Victoria.
Ah, right. That was mid 2000s. That's when Candace first came in. That was after the Dawn Marie thing with Tori Wilson. Do they? I mean, I guess that's a stable.
I just thought of another male stable. Well, I think there was maybe a female, but in Ring of Honor, the Kingdom.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, we forgot Imperium.
Imperium after the UK.
They're doing big things in the UK. With Walter, it looks like Walter's reign about to come to an end, but Imperium was a very good faction that's still going strong. And they were a very good counter to Undisputed Era.
Yeah. I gotta say though, Undisputed Era, I think right now is probably the faction, not just in NXT, but I put them above Inner Circle.
Oh yeah. Some would say it's the Japanese one that's been expanding for that. I mean, they expanded here. They expanded. I forgot their name is Lay something. Lay in. You may have to Google this one too. Willow is they just released new merchandise, but they've been going for a while. They kind of rival Bullet Club in Japan, that also extended to different markets and different federations and platforms. It's Lay something like Les Incarabe, so it's something like that. But they're going really big right now too. But I think Undisputed Era is like probably number 2 and number 3 in terms of the top factions going right now, just because of the fact that one, they're old ROH guys, which I was a bit. I mean, you had Red Dragon, you had Adam Cole, who was a previous Bullet Club member. So he still has that affiliation.
Would you say that Adam Cole is probably one of, if not the best working today?
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, his title reign shows for it. I mean, some people doesn't give him enough credit because of Undisputed Era did this, did that. A lot of his title reigns, one, he worked through injuries. 2, he always promoted the team. He can work
great in a ring with a bigger guy too.
Yeah, like him and what happened with him and Keith Lee, that was a great match. Then what Adam Cole showed too is that he's not just the indie guy or the ROH guy. He's the guy, because that match with Daniel Bryan when NXT was first taken over against SmackDown during last year's Survivor Series, one of my favorite matches of that year. Like just the storytelling, and then the end match with Triple H's speech and how they're taking over. NXT is not just a developmental brand; it's a third brand, and we sound off the first gunshots for this war. Like, oh man, that whole night was great. But Adam Cole shows that he may be the face of the WWE within the next couple years. Like, really, like he's like their Seth Rollins. Like, honestly, because Seth has showed that he can take the company and be the face. But I'm telling you, Adam Cole, I think he's going to finish in WWE. Like by the time his career done, I think it's going to end in WWE. Secondly, I think it's going to be one of those, like, I think he's going to cross that threshold of being a guy, because he has a face that you could put on like a movie or a television show, and I think he's going to be that superstar that's going to be the next cross-branding superstar. He just has to
his promos are like top notch.
Yeah, and then he can work with anybody. Like the whole thing with Pat McAfee that's going on right now. Like he's making Pat McAfee look great in the ring. It's just like
Pat McAfee looked great in the ring, just like he
by
was
himself.
Great.
Yeah. So just like you put him in the ring with somebody like Adam Cole really reminds me of the next coming like Seth and AJ Styles. Like he really does. And CM Punk. Like those three are like the indie guys who like kind of grew up in it, specifically AJ and CM Punk. Like that's what Adam Cole was always to me in ROH. And so to see him take his workhorse mentality in ROH and bring it to NXT and elevate it, it's and then put Undisputed Era behind him. Because here's the thing about Undisputed Era. It feel like it's an Adam Cole show, but it's not, because what it did was it gave 3 other superstars. Like, I mean, be honest, Roderick Strong got the NXT first, but wasn't really doing anything. Then Red Dragon needed a new platform besides RH to really become one of those tag teams that's like, all right, we're the next coming of tag teams. And so if you think about it, Undisputed Era was put together to be a push for Adam Cole, and yet it still was able to elevate all other 3 members, including Adam Cole. And that's what makes Undisputed one of the best factions going right now, is because they all held the goal. They all are workhorses. They all are great at, like they all are great at what they do. They have a theme song that's omniscient to N.W.O, but it's still, if you hear the,
it's catchy.
Yeah, but if you hear the doom, shock the system. Like, once you hear shock the system, you know who's coming. It's like they have that markability where it's like, okay, and I can't wait to hit the main roster.
Like Adam Cole, baby, like whenever the crowd, like you would have to cover your ears. That's how loud it gets.
Oh yeah, I've been in an event where it's just like, I've been at NXT where you hear that, like, Adam Cole, baby, and it's shock. It literally sends a shockwave, like, throughout the arena, and it's been doing that since ROH. Because I went to ROH shows where Adam Cole won the ROH World Championship repping Bullet Club, and that's all you heard was Adam Cole, baby, Adam Cole, baby. So it's like, that's been around for years. And he's still young.
You want to know the promo I want him to bring into WWE that he hasn't yet? And that's story time.
Oh, yes. I'm waiting for story time. Yes, absolutely. I think they're saving that for a solo run.
Willow is got a look on her face like, what's story time? Doris, you want to go to explain story time?
I'm definitely interested in knowing about this.
Yeah. So story time, Adam Cole would do this segment with ROH where whoever he's like rivaling with, he will like pretty much sit in a chair with like a pipe and like this like very comfortable setting, and he would just talk crap about this person and just tell like all their bad woes that they did through their career and all the bad.
Have a book in his hand.
Yeah, a book in his. It's one of the best segments that Adam Cole does, and it just exuberates his personality because he's just like, it's just him. There's no other mediums around him but a chair, probably like a lamp post, and just this big book, and he's just talking crap the entire time. And it's just like, it makes you mad as the person's rivaling to him, because it's just like, it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious, but it's just like, it's great. And I think they're saving that for a solo run. They're not going to, I don't know if ROH owes the rights to story time. That would be something we have to look up. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure they're saving that for his solo run. But yeah, I do agree. Undisputed Era is it's definitely the best thing going in WWE right now, besides everything going with Roman and Jey Uso and potentially the tribe that they're creating with that. But I'm pretty sure by the end of 2020, we'll be talking about a couple of things in terms of stables. Roman and his tribe. I think that's definitely going to be a thing that comes out of 2020. Undisputed Era going to finally make their way to the main roster, and that's where I think they're going to elevate themselves to a higher standing. Is when they make their way to the main roster. And I think somehow, some way, WWE is going to try and bring in. Hey, Nicole.
Hey. I have a Zoom meeting I have to go to now, so.
Oh.
It's good seeing you.
Yeah, good seeing you guys too.
But yeah, I think by some way, WWE is going to try to bring over Imperium from NXT UK. It's going to be a blow to NXT UK, but it's going to be a big win for the main roster. Oh, because now, I mean, their factions is, I mean, all their factions is pretty much done with them splitting up New Day. So it's like all they have now is Undisputed Era, if you think about it.
Yeah. And you said, the best thing going in wrestling right now is the Fiend, which is interesting that he's a face now.
Yeah, he's a face. People keep trying to. I don't know why I've seen all these people that's post him as a heel. He's not a heel. He's definitely a face, or at least a tweener. He's definitely a tweener.
He was a heel. He was a heel. But now, since he came to the rescue and was fighting Retribution, which people are confused. Are they doing it? Are they not doing it? I forgot
about Retribution. I completely forgot Retribution is definitely a faction.
Yeah. Did you read who's all in that group?
Oh yeah, it's a great group of NXT people. Dominic Dijakovic, Shane Thorne, Mia Yim, was it Devon Madden? I think that's his name.
Is that the guy with the dreads that was
dreads.
doing the commentary on
yep.
Paul or something?
When I think Brock put him through the table.
Yeah,
that was him. And then Mustafa Ali. They did have the one girl. I forgot who it was. The one woman who was with. She was the second woman member. It was Mia Yim, and it was this. But they sent her back to NXT to get more development time. I can't remember if it wasn't Raquel Gonzalez. It was somebody else that they sent her back because they said she kind of wasn't ready. But Mia Yim, she's all for it. Like I'm such a fan of Mia Yim. Yeah. Like I'm such a big fan of Mia Yim. So to see her in this platform to take this stage with Retribution is really good for her. I really wish they get rid of the mask. It's not that the masks suck. Is that I want these guys to have a face. I want these not guys as in like just the guys, but like I want this group to have a face because all these NXT superstars that's getting this platform, they're really good, really talented individuals. So I want their face to be showcased. Not everybody needs the Kane treatment. Not everybody needs the Fiend treatment. And so that's but it works because Mustafa Ali is the leader. Oh man, I actually gave WWE a standing ovation for that. I thought that was so good. I was so pleasantly surprised.
It wasn't just weeks; it was months. He was the guy running the
hacker stuff on SmackDown. So, and then everybody thought they dropped the angle on that, which I mean, by all purpose standards, they did. They dropped the angle to the hacker because Mustafa got injured. So then they was putting them on. I think it was what is it, like Superstars? I think they were still doing. I think they still doing not Superstars. What's the other WWE Main Event? They kept putting them on Main Event, and they was like, oh, they just dropping the ball on Mustafa Ali. They just dropping the ball on him. Then he came back and helped Apollo Crews and Ricochet. That's what they dropping the ball on, Ricochet. I'll get to that. That's another topic for another discussion. But they bring it. They brought him back, and then everyone's like, he got a pop for that, and everybody's like, yeah, Mustafa's back, and then they dropped the ball again, and so like to see him like that moment when he ran up to their face after fighting the Hurt Business, and then he turns around, and Mustafa is a man of not many words, but when you hear him say, "Get him," I was like, oh my! It sent chills down my spine. Like it was great. It's like probably one of the best angles to bring back and like kind of recycle that they've done in a long time. So him leading Retribution, him being the mouthpiece, him being the face of Retribution, and then they did a picture where it was all of them wearing the mask, and Mustafa always wore a mask when he came out, and I was just like, how? It was in front of our face the entire time, and we never seen it coming. Because I was like, his mask already looks like Retribution. I was like, come on now. I was like, it was in our face the entire time. And that's why a lot of fans don't give WWE enough credit. They're on them when they like drop the ball and when they do some bad stuff. But when they bring out something good, they don't get enough credit for the good that they do. And then they proceed. Some people say they kind of buried Retribution this past Monday. I don't think they buried Retribution with the Fiend taking them all out. Because if you hype up the Fiend to be this unstoppable beast, then he has to be an unstoppable beast, even to Retribution. So that's not. I don't think they dropped the ball. I think it was just a slight step because I don't know what it was about Monday Night Raw. There's somebody that needs to help with organization and organizing a show with Monday Night Raw. Because it's certain promos, like the promo that they did where Mustafa revealed that he was the hacker and he was the mind behind Retribution, and that promo was great. If y'all haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend it. It was a great promo helmed by Mustafa Ali. The promo was good. I think the promo should have came before the attack on the Fiend. I was like, you can't bring this promo out after they lose. Like they just got destroyed by the Fiend, and then it's like, well, let me tell you why we want to be Retribution. No, this is a promo that should have came the week after Retribution showed that Mustafa Ali was the leader. Because remember, last week they did just the draft. Retribution was nowhere to be found. Right. There's a moment where you want a group that's supposed to be this disassembly of the WWE formula, and the draft is one of their biggest things, and you don't have them attack the draft? Like, what are y'all doing? This is when they should attack. Big stapled events is where retribution should be placed, not backstage ruining a gym. Like they should be like in the middle of Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton's match, should just come out and beat them both up. That's what you do. You invade main event stuff. You don't just have them just like sprinkle here and there a Raw or a sprinkle. Then they took them from messing up all of WWE to messing up only Raw. And then you gave people who were supposed to be renegades contracts. I was like, come on, who is writing Raw? Like,
well, it's funny you use the word invade. And WWE invade in the same sentence just has never worked. I mean, back in the 90s, the ECW tried to invade. It sort of worked. And then, when they bought WCW, they did the whole WCW invasion, and that was botched. So WWE...
Was it botched? I mean, I think the ending was botched. I think the first start, like having Shane,
because a lot of the WCW guys that people were expecting weren't there. It was like all the lesser known people.
Yeah,
but that's because AOL still owned a lot of their contracts. So Ric Flair couldn't come, Goldberg couldn't come, Sting couldn't come.
Yeah, you got a point there. Because even then they had to take some WWF guys and put them with the association, or the alliance. They had to make them with the alliance. And I was like, oh, this how you know y'all couldn't get big stars. You had to take WWF stars and put them over there with Shane. Okay, that makes a lot of sense now. I can see how you can say botch now. When you explain it, it's like, all right, I see it now.
Yeah, well, when they bought WCW. There was still a lot of the wrestlers, the big guys that were still under contract because at that time they were Turner was partnered with AOL, and so there were still big names that were in that contract, and Vince wasn't going to pay whatever they needed to be paid to actually come over. Yeah, because I think Sting still had like $1 million or something like that to be paid. To be bought out of his contract, so Sting just and was still getting paid. Yeah, he
was there. He was there, kind of like their Rock almost. If Hulk Hogan was like the John Cena of WCW when he finally went over there, Sting was like the Stone Cold or the Rock. Like he was like the second face of WCW. Some would say he was the face of WCW. So that makes sense why his contract was still so high. Like that's $1 million. Goodness gracious! At that time, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
like that's a. I mean, Sting ate. he made out.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think Retribution has some work to be done. I think the angle of Mustafa Ali. I think stables in general, because they just started a stable with Will Ospreay and he just went heel. He just started a new stable called the Empire, which sounds promising. In New Japan. So Will Ospreay just finally turned heel. I don't know if he was heel before, but this is like one of the biggest heel turns that's being talked about right now. You still had Evil. Evil was a big group in New Japan, and their main guy turned to the Bullet Club. So he turned heel and turned on Naito. He turned on Naito and took both titles. Like they just threw everything on him. So that was a big thing going on. Naito's group was a big stable that was going on in New Japan. I don't know. I think stables right now is at a I wouldn't necessarily say at a decline, but it's not as big as it used to be. I think New Day was the last like super humongous big stable that was super big. Undisputed Era is growing, but some people. The problem with Undisputed Era, and it's not Undisputed Era's problem, it's really NXT's problem, is that people, no matter how much you put NXT on the USA, no matter how much you promote NXT won Survivor Series last year, like by an astounding number, like destroyed. No matter what you do, people always look at NXT as developmental, and that's what's holding Undisputed Era back, is because if you really want NXT, no matter what they do, if you really want NXT to be taken seriously, they have to put it at a bigger platform than just putting it on even USA. Like they have to be at WrestleMania. They have to be at SummerSlam. They have to be at these bigger known brands. pay-per-views, because that's the only thing that's holding Undisputed Era from being one of the most dominant factions in the game. Is that people just still look at them, oh, that's just the developmental branded faction. They're just Adam Cole was only a 400-day reign developmental champion. Like, he's one of the longest reigns in the modern era of WWE. So, it's going to take some time for Undisputed Era to hit that threshold of, say, like, N.W.O, DX, but they can. Bullet Club, I think, definitely declined. Bullet Club is nowhere near the height that it was, and I don't think it's ever going to get back there again unless.
Yeah, once they lost like the Young Bucks and Kenny,
and Cody, and Hangman, and once they just, I tell people all the time, like some people say NJPW that is still going strong with Okada in them, but I think the renaissance of New Japan has left, and it went to AEW.
Yeah, is Jay White still part of the Bullet Club? Or?
Yes, he is. He's still there. I think he's still their leader, but he's not. So the thing about Switchblade is that he has all the cunning of Kenny Omega. He has the mic skills to boast. He's good in the ring. Technically, he stole. Technically, if I'm not mistaken, the Switchblade finisher, isn't that the Crossroads? Like, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah, isn't it the Crossroads? So he has I don't want to say but he has homages of his performance and his character from other big name stars in the circuit. But the problem with Switchblade is that they rushed him. And they had to rush him because their big stars left to start their own thing, So they had to rush him to a plateau that he wasn't ready for, to me.
They almost lost Okada. Okada was this close to signing with Vince.
Yeah, and that would have been a big pickup for Vince. That would have been. So was Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega was like, some people would say, like, Kenny was always going to sign with AEW. No, he wasn't. Vince was throwing his wallet at Kenny Omega.
Yeah, well, the thing with Omega was that he was promised a WrestleMania match with AJ Styles, and he turned it down. And that would have been big money for WrestleMania.
What? That would have been. That would have been what, as big as AJ versus Shinsuke at Wrestle Kingdom 10. Big, like. That would have been that type of matchup. That would have been Kenny versus Okada at anything. So, that would have. I think right now with Switchblade and Bullet Club, I think they need another person to take the helm. And I don't want to neglect like ROH. They have some staples going too. But the problem with ROH is that it's the same problem with NJPW. A lot of their guys flew the coop. They went to NJPW. They went to AEW. They went to N.W.O, which is growing in prominence again. N.W.O is going bigger and bigger now. They went to
is ROH still headquartered there in Maryland?
I don't know. It probably is. I know we still got MCW here, but I know a lot of their shows was ran out of here, but I don't know if it's still here, because I think at the time where Cody and them was there, I think it gotten bigger enough to where they didn't have to just shoot in Maryland, so they could still be here. I haven't seen any. That's the crazy thing. I haven't seen nothing of ROH. Like, even before the pandemic took over, like, I haven't seen nothing of ROH being spread around here. So I don't think so. I think they moved. They could have moved. Maybe PA, maybe something close to Maryland, but I don't think they're still in Maryland. I could be wrong though. Somebody fact check me.
I've been noticing that there's a bit of a lack of marketing when it comes to wrestling now. I'm not seeing too much like the newer shirts out.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, like, because I haven't watched wrestling in so long, I have no idea what's actually happening now. And I feel like I don't see any commercials about wrestling or like any updates when it comes to what's actually happening in the wrestling world, except for what's happening. Like I see a couple of my friends posting up, oh, the show, like what happened on last night's Raw, or when it comes to independent wrestling, all the new stuff, all the new wrestlers that are coming out. I see nothing newsworthy whatsoever unless I'm actually searching for it.
Well, I know a lot of the advertisement now is definitely online, a push online more than ever, because I see a Raw, SmackDown, like, I mean, specifically with the new season starting with both Raw and SmackDown, like, I've been seeing nothing but ads. Oh,
Yeah,
check this new opening out.
WWE, they have a contract with Comcast, so all the Universal owned channels, so NBC, USA, you see commercials for WWE, merchandise and programming on those, anything that Comcast owns. And AEW, of course, has the deal with TNT, so you see commercials on TNT and TBS.
Yes, yeah.
So and with the independent stuff, social media.
Yeah. I think I know I used to see a lot of ROH ads on TV, but I don't see it anymore, like, at all. And it sucks because ROH still has good talent. I mean, they still got Jay Lethal and the Briscoe.
Jay Lethal was awesome.
Yeah, and
Kenny King. You mentioned Jay Lethal. The best promo and Impact was when he came out, Ric Flair.
Yeah, the woo off.
Dude, you thought it was Ric Flair talking to Ric Flair.
Yeah, the woo off is still legendary. It's really iconic if you think about it.
When we sign off, I will give you the link to that promo, Willow, and you have to watch it.
Okay.
Oh,
it's on YouTube.
It's fantastic.
It actually has millions and millions of views on YouTube.
Yeah, and also honestly, that promo, that specific promo, is what boasted Jay Lethal from Hammond Edgar to like superstar status, and that's why when he left Impact and he went to ROH, he was like one of their longest reigning world champions. He became an undisputed champion. I think he had his own stable, if I'm not mistaken. He actually has his own stable at one point.
He's still not going to be Adam Cole, who is the only 3-time ROH champion.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think Jay Lethal was twice now? He's a 2-time champion. I think he just finished his second reign. No, I think he just started his second reign because his first reign was the one that got him prominence, and then his second reign, he just beat the dude that beat Cody for the title. Yeah, so when Cody was an ROH world champion, Cody lost to I think Castle. I think his last name is Castle. And then Castle just lost to Jay Lethal, and Jay Lethal is now the champion, unless something changed recently. But I'm pretty sure Jay Lethal is the current world champion. But yeah, I think stables can get on a rise with the right promotion. I think Undisputed Era will be the one of the the leads on that once they reach the main roster, because WWE is waiting for fans to come back to debut Undisputed Era to the main roster. So that's why when people was wondering like why Undisputed Era is still in NXT and doing NXT things, it's literally because they're waiting to debut Undisputed Era. That's why it's unfortunate that Kyle O'Reilly got injured during his fantastic match with Finn. But it's well needed because I mean fans aren't coming back probably not until like December.
Yeah,
so
and they're going to be one of those groups that, just like we were talking about N.W.O 20 years later, and Undisputed Era will be talked about 20 years from now.
I 100% agree with you. I think what they brought to NXT, I think if people say Finn elevated NXT, Undisputed Era put NXT on the map. And that's I will argue that to the day. Like if Finn and DIY was all, and Bailey and them was like the people to push the Renaissance, Undisputed Era and their crop. I mean Keith Lee, Dominic Dijakovic, Damian Priest, like Matt Riddle, Pete Dunne, like this crop of NXT people, they put it on a map and gonna further push NXT even after they left NXT. So yeah, I think Undisputed Era will definitely still be remembered. I mean, Bullet Club is going to be remembered. Undisputed Era is going to be remembered. It's a lot of these factions that will go down in history, and not just in wrestling, but in pop culture. And I think once Undisputed Era is able to make that step to mainstream, look at New Day. Believe it or not, New Day is one of the best tag teams in WWE history. Literally, I think they're the longest reigning. They haven't won it the most times, but they're up there. I think they're like number 2, number 3 in most title wins.
Yeah, haven't they won? What is it? They're 7-time tag team champions.
They're 7 right now. I think they just won their 7th title. So it's like it might be more
up there too.
It might be more because I remember when Big E won the title for New Day. He won the tag title for New Day. I'm trying to remember his Instagram post where he put up. I think he put up 8, like 4 and 4. So they might be in that 9th title reign. But you could be right on it's either 7th or 9th.
Do you think it's a great time to get back into wrestling?
I think right now. I would say yes, because I've told people to get back into wrestling right now because you've seen a lot of these superstars that were come ups now at the threshold of their career, and
they are 10-time tag team champions.
Yeah, is it? Do they count the title switch between Street Profits and them?
Yeah, they are the tag 10. It says they have the most reigns as SmackDown champions at 7, but they are overall 10-time tag team champions in the company, with 8 of them as a trio defending the tag titles under the Freebird rule.
Yeah, so I remember they won the title when it was still like the copper title, like the copper looking belts with the black and the gold copper. And then they won it twice with the red title belt. And then, 7 times with the SmackDown championship.
And they held on to the tag titles for 483 days.
Yep. Yeah. It's incredible. And people say what you want about the gimmick, but it worked. And it worked 10 times.
Well, it's because the real life guys just click.
Yeah, exactly.
If you listen to their podcast, one of the best podcasts in the wrestling podcast things out there, them and Jericho's podcast are 2 of my favorite podcasts in wrestling.
I do like Talk is Jericho. Talk is Jericho is good. Stone Cold has so many that actually, which is one of my favorites, which is weird because I can barely understand half the time he talks. But it's Booker T's Hall of Fame podcast. I really like Booker T's because he gives insight into his interpretation of how wrestling should work. Booker T has, I don't know why they don't have him as like a booker. Like that's funny, Booker. But they should have him like really like in the writer's room because he comes up with some good I remember one of my favorites was how Kofi lost the title to Brock Lesnar in like 19 seconds or something. And how he explained how he would have had that match going was like he had Kofi kick out like a couple times from the F5 to show how resilient Kofi was throughout his title reign, and then he'll have like Brock put him down for like a 4th or 5th F5. So he said I would have let it at least go for like 5 to 10 minutes, not 19 seconds. But Booker gives some good insight. But like you said,
Corey Graves has a good one after the bell.
Oh yeah. Where he I think he did the Drew McIntyre interview one time. I thought that interview was really good.
Yeah,
because Drew talks about how he his journey back from Drew Galloway and his journey back from being just the Drew McIntyre that was the chosen one to now actually being the chosen one. So Drew is one of my favorite success stories. Like I've always been a fan of Drew, and I always wanted 3MB is a stable we don't talk about enough, but 3MB has spawned 2 world champions. So keep that in mind. 3MB has spawned 2 world champions and a multiple-time tag champion, Heath Slater.
But Drew McIntyre was the guy. I mean, I'm not a Jinder Mahal fan.
I'm not a Jinder Mahal fan, but I was such a fan of his reign. I was like him being the modern day Maharaja, and him having the Singh brothers like walk around with. I was like, this is because you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Muhammad Hassan, where he had Davari with him. And I was a big fan of him as a heel because he was controversial, but he was also like he had the look of I can see him as a champion, or like the Iron Sheik, like that's why I love his run with the title, because it's like, one, he beat a big star like Randy Orton, who was he was coming off his big out of nowhere big momentum push in the media, and then it was not. You didn't see it coming. You didn't see Jinder Mahal coming back stocky and could talk on the mic and
Willow, just to let you know, Jinder Mahal, even though he is of Indian descent, he is Canadian.
Yeah,
he's from your.
He's a good Canadian kid. Yep, he's a good Canadian kid.
So, as John Campbell would say.
Yeah. So he's Jinder Mahal's run with the Singh brothers was like it's good because one, it fit the motif that they were going for with the modern day Maharaja thing, but also it worked because WWE is. I mean, some people say it was a cash grab because they was going into the Indian market, the Middle Eastern market, and whatnot. And I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe that was a way to get into to penetrate that market very, very easily. But I do think that that portion of WWE where like how 3MB has spawned, WWE has a knack for spawning world champions from stables. People don't realize this. They've always done it. They've literally always done it. And so New Day and 3MB and Evolution. I know how John how he felt about Evolution, but I thought Evolution was a quintessential staple in WWE for a long time. They still have relevance in WWE because I mean, when Evolution came back to fight the Shield, that was some of the biggest viewed content. So that's how. So that's why I was like, I understand if I don't see how I personally don't think Evolution dropped the ball. I don't think they failed because what Evolution was supposed to do was elevate Ric Flair as still the guy and put him in kind of a Bobby Heenan role because Ric Flair was the manager. So really, Evolution was always a 3-man cell. Ric Flair was just the manager. He was just the one to talk the talk and walk the walk. He showed them how y'all can be main eventers and be style, and he showed them what it's like to be a star. That's what he did for Batista and Randy. He showed them what it's like to be a star. What he showed Triple H was that Triple H kind of already knew, but he made it concrete in Triple H's mind. You are the guy. You are the man. I mean, Triple H made the big gold belt what it was like in WWE. He was the one that made it relevant in WWE. Some will say Batista because Batista technically has the longest reign in WWE with the big gold belt, but I say Triple H is what made it rise to prominence because they could have easily just created a Universal Championship, but what they did was they took the big gold belt, which had already had a history with it, and they brought it to WWE, and Triple H was the flag bearer for it, and if Triple H wasn't who he was, that could have tanked really badly, so. That's what Ric Flair brought to Evolution. He solidified Triple H's dominance as a main event caliber player. He showed Randy and Batista that this is what it's like to be a superstar. This is what it's like to win, and this is what it feels like to be the guy. Now all y'all got to do is grab that brass ring yourselves. And then now Evolution showed too that you can play dirty and still be the money getters, because that's what Evolution was the most talked about thing at the time. Randy Orton wouldn't have been as big. Him becoming the youngest world champion wouldn't have mattered if Evolution didn't turn on him. That thumbs down. that is still prominent, like still to this day. Like people still do that when it's like they got bad news. Evolution made that like even more popular. I mean, people was doing it before Evolution, but Evolution made it popular. And then Batista was doing it for the longest time. Whenever he did a Batista bomb, he'd be and then put the thumbs down, then do his little thing that he does. So it's like Evolution still to this day is, to me, WWE's biggest homegrown faction. And I think Undisputed Era has a way to surpass that. But I think Evolution is still, to me, the biggest homegrown faction. I think number 2 is the Shield. I think the Shield, you don't get no better than the Shield. Just look at Moxley, Reigns, and Brawlers. I mean, they literally ran WWE for like 7 years. It was like 6 to 7 years. Like, I mean, from their debut at I think it was Over the Limit in 2012.
Yeah, wasn't that when they came and they put Ryback through the table?
Yeah, yep. So it was like from Over the Limit 2012 to where they at now. I mean, they literally have some of the most reigns in WWE in a period of time. Roman Reigns was the number 1 seller in merchandise. He surpassed John Cena at some point in seller merchandise. Seth was the face. Seth Curry
Reigns is still a top seller. I still believe he's the number 1 seller of their merch
for WWE. Yep.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins was the first NXT champion. He carried that title for a good while. He put over people. He has 2 clean wins over Brock Lesnar, which is, I think, the most that ever anybody has.
Brock Lesnar.
I think Reigns, and remember, Brock kind of had a stable too. Brock had a stable with it was Big Show, Brock, and it was one other person that they put with him. But Brock kind of had a stable too, because remember when they was he was feuding with I think it was Team Angle. I think it was Team Angle, or it was some team that he was feuding with. Brock kind of had a mini stable, but some people forget Team Angle with Shelton Benjamin, Kurt Angle, and Charlie Haas.
Yeah,
some people they were the tag team champions and the WWE champion. Yeah. They were some of the most successful trio too. So
I was gonna say before we end the show, we're having a little fun with you. If you could take a stable against another stable, this is a dream match scenario. Both stables in their prime. Who would you like to see in the ring?
If I could do it, I would put. I mean, I've seen it. It was honestly, it was the Shield versus Evolution. But let me see if I can be more creative. I will probably put the Undisputed Era, because I love the Undisputed Era. I really do. I love the Undisputed Era. I would put Undisputed Era against Fortune. I mean, some people, Fortune is a very lesser known stable, but I mean, if you look at AJ Styles, Beer Money with Robert Roode and James Storm, and Kazarian, who is, I mean, a multiple time tag team champion in the indie scene. Or if you take Kazarian now, you put Christopher Daniels. I think main event Mafia, I think Fortune and Undisputed Era will give like 4 versus 4 would be a great match. It'll be a very technical match because a lot of those guys are very technical wrestlers. So I would put that would be my pick: Fortune versus Undisputed Era in a Survivor Series style matchup.
You know who I'd like to see? I would like to see like early N.W.O.
Okay. Against
the most popular version of the Bullet Club.
I think the most popular was Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks.
Yeah, you know, right after they all jumped AJ Styles.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So would it be like that trio versus that trio? Because I think the best iteration of the Bullet Club is the AJ Styles ran Bullet Club. I think the reason why I think that was the best iteration is because AJ took if Prince Devitt introduced it, AJ took Bullet Club to, like I said, to a realm where now people really had their eyes on the Bullet Club because AJ left TNA to go to NJPW. He went to NJPW and won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and he did all this in the same year.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? Yeah, I was gonna say what's funny about Bullet Club is there was a pattern for a while. Whenever the leader got beat up, they went to WWE. Kenny Omega broke the mold and did not go to WWE because Prince Devitt at that time is now Finn Balor. He was jumped by the Bullet Club.
Yep.
And he ended up in WWE.
And there's always the new guy, and there's always the new guy that eventually becomes the leader. So at that time, AJ was the new guy, and he came, and then they jumped Finn, and he became the leader. But AJ will go on record and say that he was never the leader of Bullet Club. Finn was always the leader of the Bullet Club. He was just there. I was like, no, AJ, you were the leader. You were the leader, and I'll never forget one of my favorite matches with the Bullet Club, specifically with the AJ Rand version. Was when they introduced Adam Cole into the Bullet Club during ROH. And but my favorite matchup was the Young Bucks and AJ Styles versus, I think it was like Jay Lethal and the Briscoes or somebody. It was such a good 6-man match. And one of my favorite endings to the match was that the Young Bucks, they do their one like kind of like their 450 Tombstone tag team finisher, which is still one of the best tag team finishers I've ever seen. But so they do that finisher, and then, if I'm not mistaken, them AJ and they did like a triple like super kick on somebody, and then they did AJ. They threw the dude. They kind of like Hurricane Run the dude up to AJ who was sitting on the apron, and they like style clashed him off the apron. It was great. It was like that whole ROH scene was bananas when AJ was running Bullet Club. Yeah. It was like fantastic. But that's a good choice, though. The Hogan and, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash versus the Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. And, you still have, and then, you Cody and them. Yeah, I like that. I like your matchup a lot more because that just like speaks money. Like all I hear is cha-ching when I hear that matchup. Like that is money in the most simplest form. That is just money. That's printed currency right there.
Yeah. And then another one, like an honorable mention, would be New Day against the Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah. I mean, they are the Fabulous Freebirds. I mean, like it should be the New Day rule at this point. Like it should be the Freebirds and New Day rule. That's what it should be because I mean, you can't take away the credit that New Day has done. It was 3 jobbers who at some point felt like they weren't being, treated with the right amount of respect. Kofi was the veteran, Xavier Woods was the new guy, and Big E was kind of like the middleman. And so, I mean, if you look at it, New Day is like they were kind of a evolution almost. All they needed was they didn't really need a voice, but if they did got a voice, they would have been like a new age evolution. Because I mean, you had the new guy in Xavier Woods. He was like their Randy Orton. Well, he was really he was like their Xavier Woods was kind of like their Batista almost because Batista was the newest guy in WWE when Evolution started. Not Randy. Randy was there at least for like I think a year or so before Batista got
Randy was homegrown.
Yeah, so Randy was there before Batista. So Randy and Big E was because some people would look at Big E and Batista is the same, but no, in terms of how long they were there, Big E would have been the Randy Orton in that scenario. Xavier Woods would have been the Batista that scenario, and Kofi was the Triple H. And so, like, if they would have got like a mouthpiece, like I don't know, like say MVP would have came back and been the voice of New Day, that would have been absolutely bananas. Like that would have been great. Or you could have had like. I don't know something. I mean, my dream match would have had like I wanted The Rock to be a manager to somebody so badly. Like I wanted The Rock to like get his own group and just manage them. That would be like that would be just epic. Like just think about The Rock being the voice for New Day. Like that would or like The Rock being the voice for the Tribe after Roman beat him at WrestleMania. Rumor, but I mean that could be a thing. Like have Rock come back as like a mouthpiece for like Roman and his Tribe. Come on now, that is. I'm not saying I need the right for WWE, but if I was WWE, I would throw the wallet at The Rock and be like, I need you as a manager.
It's funny how you bring up The Rock. And, if COVID wasn't around, that was the main reason why WrestleMania next year is in LA because it's going to be versus The Rock.
Yeah. And I think they won't be able to do it. So I think they're still trying to host it in Tampa Bay again, which is, I mean, just put it off for next year. I mean, for the following year. Like, I mean, The Rock's still going to be the #1 movie star in the world. That's not going to change anytime soon. And
Well,
Roman,
I'll tell you with The Rock. I mean, I try to stay away from this topic on the show, but I have a feeling in 8 years we're going to see The Rock run for president of the United States.
mm-hmm. He's the most followed man in America on Instagram. He literally is the most followed man in America on Instagram. Like, so the thing is, I have a problem with celebrities. Every time we got a celebrity as a president, it's been horrible. Ronald Reagan. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you got Trump, Ronald Reagan. I might be off on this, but wasn't which president was? I don't know why I'm blanking on presidents. I'm pretty good at president names. The Magic Bullet, the one that got shot during
Kennedy.
Kennedy. Wasn't he an actor?
No.
No.
He was just a famous family that was already just already into politics.
Okay.
But today's been a fun show, and I'm gonna run another ad for the person I will be on Tuesday night, Clever Tile Penning. This is another Brian K. Morris spot.
Southwest of Chicago, there is a small, secluded cemetery known as Bachelor's Grove, and it is one of the most haunted places in the United States. Author Brian K. Morris brings you a collection of writings that will help you navigate this ghostly graveyard, if you dare. The Haunting Scripts of Bachelor's Grove is available now on Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
That's going to be a fun episode of Clever Title Pending, which he brings a lot of people that are authors and comic book writers and artists and other podcasters, and they talk about the creative journey that said guest is on. And it's also the day of my birthday, so we're going to be doing some birthday celebration shenanigans. But Darius, it's been so much fun having you on the show, and I'm glad to be back. That you support us so much.
Oh, of course. I told you. You too, Willow. Yeah, I told you before, I love Reels and Heels. It's a very very welcoming podcast, and it's once I came back to podcasting and just wanted to do podcasts in general, it was my first entry back into the web space. So as wherever I can support, I've been busy the last couple months, but whenever I can sneak in an episode or two, I'll try and find my way to fit into my schedule.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I was going to say on Tuesday, I will be announcing some things going forward in 2021 that Reels and Heels. We're going to do a little bit of rebranding shift. I won't mention it here, but Tuesday night, if you guys tune into Brian K. Morris's show, Clever Title Pending, you'll find out what we're doing in the following year.
Hopefully it's bigger and better.
Should we have a meeting before this?
Yes, well, I will let you know. But thank you, everyone, for joining us on the 30th episode. Man, I can't believe this was the 30th episode of Reels and Heels. And then next week, 31, is a special Halloween episode where Nicole's favorite holiday, I mean, we love Christmas, but Halloween is her favorite holiday. And we're going to be talking about everything that is what October is about. So everything that goes up in the nights, paranormal stuff, horror movies, you name it.
Will there be costumes?
Probably.
But until then, I'm gonna ring the